In this video, watch the return of a former S&B intern who you may recognize from past videos on our YouTube channel and recently got hired. This newly hired prop trader shares in step-by-step detail an earnings trend trade that he made. Hi, I'm Mike Bellafiore, co-founder of S&B Capital, and we're a proprietary trading firm located in Midtown Manhattan. And I'm also the author of the trading classic, One Good Trade in the Playbook. Let's get to work on sharing how you can build from your unique strengths, like this trader, to build the best professional trading playbook to grow your trading account.
Starting things off here, this is an earnings trend trade on MRAM back from actually early November, mid-November. It was a playbook that I had kind of just saved up and just kind of kept for keeping and thought it was a good opportunity to present it. So wanted to do it here for you guys.
So Jonathan, just give us a little context. Where are you in your trading career?
So I'm going to say a little update. At the moment, I am actually on the desk now with S&B Capital. I would say I'm a new developer at the moment. I know some of you guys have seen myself and my brother in the past, Caleb. We are fraternal twins, so both of us did get the offer from S&B Capital.
So you were interns?
Yes, we were interns. We started with the junior internship, moved on to the senior internship up in office in New York, and then currently now we are remote trading at the moment on the desk as new developing traders
Well,
right now.
congratulations.
Thank you. I want to say it's been a long journey in a sense, but also I know it's just the beginning as well.
How do you feel?
Exciting, nervous, kind of emotions all over, but really happy about everything as a whole. I would say more on the side of definitely on the congratulatory side and the excited more than anything. You're always going to have those nervousness and like those type of feelings out there, but I think the good outweighs the bad for sure.
You know, we should have you guys give a little bit of advice, maybe do a short video on your advice as to how to get hired. We won't do it now. As to how to get hired at S&B Capital, because I certainly get a lot of questions about, hey, how do I land a spot on the desk? And maybe you guys giving some advice would be a pretty interesting video along with what you went through.
Absolutely.
So look forward to that. All of you guys watching on our channel, look forward to Jonathan and Caleb giving their play-by-play as to going from unhired intern to junior intern, and then making the cut as a junior intern and becoming senior interns and standing out as senior interns and now receiving an offer and accepting an offer to trade on the desk. And are you guys on a team yet, or are we not there yet?
So we're still in the process of everything. I guess from our entire journey, we've been around Team Dan more than anything. So since being accepted on the desk and everything, we're still doing the morning meetings and morning calls and just being in group with them all day at the moment. But I don't think technically in terms of the legality part of it, if we've been technically assigned or have been offered onto a team just yet.
All right, well, we'll have to check with the lawyers. So, all right, great. Well, look, the stakes are a little bit higher now. We're not going to be as nice to you.
Of course, and that's the thing. You always got to set the bar high, and you got to keep setting it high. You can't fall short.
Now you're trading firm capital, so don't make any mistakes.
Exactly. That's the big thing we're worrying about more than anything is just making sure the risk parameters and the risk management is there more than anything else at the moment. You can have the correct setups and trades and everything like that, but ultimately the risk management is the most important part, especially the fact that it's not our own capital. And that's the one thing that I think a lot of people tend to not realize at first is there's, in a sense, they're thinking zero risk, but at the same time, there's, I would think, more risk because of the fact that you're being trusted with the capital and it's not technically yours. So you have to be a little bit extra careful than if it was your own capital.
Well, I appreciate that. So yeah, we care less when you're trading on a demo than when you're trading a live firm capital. So we'll see how you do. All right, so let's talk about this trade. Appreciate you jumping in. And look, you're a new and developing trader, so you still have a lot of work to do. I think about not worrying about whether or not you guys are making a lot of money until year 3, but we do want you making progress by the end of year 1. We do want you making progress by the end of 6 months. And so if you're not making progress by the end of 6 months, unfortunately, there may not be a seat for you still. If you're not making progress by the end of 12 months, the reality is there may not be a seat for you guys. But we certainly hope that you guys do make progress, and we're talking in 3, 4, 5 years from now, and go from there. So, not to put too much pressure on you, but you got to perform. And part of performing is having a good work ethic and having good best practices in place, like playbook trades. So let's see how you did.
Of course. So honestly, starting this playbook off, it is an earnings trend trade. Has a higher time frame catalyst or kind of price action in mind. But as I mentioned before, it is from early to mid-November of 2021. So let's go ahead and start off with it. So as I mentioned, it was one that was actually playbooked while I was actually in office with my brother. MRAM is a semiconductor company, and this was an earnings trade. They actually reported earnings on November 11th, right after the close. And this was during the time of the earnings season and just kind of the overall market conditions where basically we were coming off of, I believe, the month of October. I believe the market was up practically every day for like a month straight. So we were coming off a strong market, kind of pulling in. Semis were very hot at the moment, and especially during this earnings season. They were basically just all having strong reports, all having exponential moves. So it was one that kind of caught my eye. And as you see from the trade thesis at the third point, looking back on the daily time frame, you really couldn't find any key levels that were really meaningful. So this was one that you actually had to switch to the weekly time frame, basically within the 3-year and the 10-year chart. And the levels that I was able to identify was basically 9 and then 11.48 or practically 11.5 as key inflection points on those time frames, which I'll be able to show you in the next few slides.
If you want to learn 3 more real-world setups that our traders use, including the simple setup that we teach all of our new traders, and the setup that turned one of our traders into a 7-figure big money earner, check out the free webinar that we're currently running. Just go ahead and click the link that should be appearing now at the top right-hand corner of your screen. That will open up the free registration page in a new window, so don't worry, you won't lose this video. You can also visit tradingworkshop.com to register for this free intensive workshop. You're going to learn more in a couple of hours from this trading workshop than from years of online education.
The plan of this trade was to basically buy the breakout above the key level of 9 to begin with, and then basically the stop of the overall trade was to be if there was some kind of hold below the price. So just the entry criteria here. Basically 850 was a level that I was looking at. From the open, I believe we opened up right at $8. So this 850 was, I believe, an ATR up at the moment. So it's just a kind of a key level that I was looking at for the anticipation of the move of being able to go up to the 9 for the actual key level breakout. And that was mentioned there as well. And reasons to sell in this trade were to be basically if there were ever strong pops creating new highs, or again for a stop if there was ever a good amount of hold below the actual 9 breakout price point.
So your thesis is they had good earnings and it's getting close to a technical breakout, therefore you wanted to play a technical breakout?
Yes, sir. And I was going to say not only that, the semis were also showing with the earnings reports during the season, they had really strong 1 to 2 day moves. So this was a day one.
So it's in a strong sector as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's good earnings, close to a technical breakout, and super strong sector. That gets you interested to buy it. And taking a half step back, you said that you were in office So you guys are from where? And you came up to New York. Where'd you guys come up from? And are you back now, back at home?
So I was gonna say, my brother and I, we came up, I believe, mid-October into the office from Orlando, Florida. We spent about 2 months there, and I believe middle of December is when we actually, our time was up and came back home. And currently, right now, we are still in Orlando at the moment, trading remotely. But we spent the 2 months up there in office from mid-October to mid-December.
Well, good time for you to go back. It's 28 degrees here today.
I was gonna say I saw there's a lot of snow, I think, recently. I'm gonna say the colder weather is definitely staying at the moment. I know when we were up there, it was only like, I think, a low of 34. I don't even know if it broke technically the freezing levels. So, but now it's you can definitely see it's consistently cold up there for sure.
What's the temperature there? 60, 65?
I would say during the nighttime, it probably gets down to the mid 60s. If we're lucky, we can kind of get the midday, like upwards of like 80, 85, I'd say.
Come on.
So it is beautiful. It's we always have the midday showers, of course, or just kind of the overcast. But I would say temperature-wise, it is beautiful down here right now.
85 degrees.
Yeah, I believe during the midday, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., it can get up to like the 80s, I believe. Haven't technically checked, just going off with the feel. But that's one thing I'll actually have to do is look at the weather app and see what the temperatures are.
Well, we do have a family trip planned in March to go to Marco Island and Miami, so I'll just have to wait until then.
I was gonna say, and down here it's year round. We'll actually be by that time probably into the hotter days, I would assume. For us, we only get like down here maybe a 1 month, 2 month span of like this kind of weather, but for the most part, it's 85, 95 degrees like year round for the most part.
All right, so enjoying the home weather. What's our next slide?
So the next slide, just kind of some intraday fundamentals and reactions from the earnings report. So basically on the left-hand side here, we have that the 52-week range of MRAM was $4.70 up to $7.61. The ATR at the time was 50 cents exactly, and the average volume over the 20-day span was $145,000. You can see from the short float here, it was 0.7, so it wasn't a stock that was heavily shorted. So to me, really, you had to see buying power. You had to see the volume. This wasn't one that you could expect to kind of see these exponential moves in terms of getting halted or shooting from $10 to $20 in a matter of 25 minutes. This was one that was probably going to be more of a grind breakout kind of trade without really catching the halt type of shorts that you would normally see with this, or just with the lower price stocks in general with a higher short float. And then based on the earnings report, so this earnings report shows that the expected earnings of AMRAM were actually supposed to be negative 5 cents with revenues at 12.2 million. And then the reported earnings were actually 5 cents positive with 14.8 million in revenue. Out of the expected and reported earnings, you can see here that we actually beat an EPS by 10 cents, which is a 200% unanticipated move on the consensus. And then they actually beat by 2.6 million, which was 21.3%.
So Jonathan, they beat for 1 quarter. They didn't beat for the full year. They didn't give guidance going forward.
I don't believe they ended up reporting on the guidances from what I saw. However, kind of the one thing that really showed the interest to me was the fact that they were supposed to be negative on the year for EPS, or in that quarter, I should say, and actually was they were actually positive with basically the 200% beat on the street basis. So for me, that was kind of the main thing that kind of that showed the interest to me when this reported after hours. And then the technical part of it was the fact that we were currently gapping up or reacting around 52-week highs. So it wasn't a triple beat as you would like to see necessarily, but I think it was more of the fact that they were expected to, in that quarter, have complete negative EPS and okay revenues, and they ended up double beating on both of those.
So one thing we've talked about in the past, and you guys did really well during your internship, we get a bunch of research from around the street. Was there any research specifically on MRAM before the open that you read that gave you some color as to whether or not this was going to trade up or down?
So I was going to say that's the one thing that Caleb and I have taken away from our research, just based on kind of stocks that are in plays, looking through our emails on specific related stocks. And that's one thing that I saw for MRAM is we did not actually have any on this day. So for me, it was kind of more of a lower quality setup necessarily. It was more of the strong earnings report with technical levels. That higher conviction would have been made if there were, for instance, like raised guidances or research emails that came out. But from the search that I ended up doing that day, I did not see anything at the moment.
All right, good. That's the best practice for you to keep doing. When I think about your internship, there's two things that really stood out in terms of my personal observation and the feedback we got from other traders. And if I take a full step back, when you're going through your junior internship, when you're going through your senior internship, and we're thinking about whether or not we're going to hire you on the desk, we're grading you on very specific things. So for instance, we're grading you on stock selection. You're very strong on stock selection. We're grading you on the playbook that you created. Did you do a thorough job? Do you have a niche? Do you have good playbook trades that you can show us? Are you a good teammate? And for us, that means, is there a team leader advocating for you during your internship? And you guys had that along the way. There were people that were saying very good things about you guys. That's not true of everybody who comes through here. That was a real strength of yours. We want to know, hey, what are your technology skills? How can you script? How can you build alerts? How'd you do with automated trading? How's your back testing? And we want to ask you about those specific drills. We're measuring you based on your cognitive ability. This is as passionate as you are and as enthusiastic as you and your brother are, and other people may be that way as well. At the end of the day, talent really does matter. And if you have, and talent matters, A, whether or not you're going to make it or not. Talent matters if you're going to make it, how good you're going to be. So you may be a upper middle class trader, but not have the cognitive ability to be Shark, or to be Raf, or to be Swang, or to be Dan G, as you mentioned, or to be Max, or to be Nano and Armand. You may, and that doesn't mean you're not bright. It just means for the game we play of active short-term trading, your cognitive ability doesn't measure up to somebody else. It might be that you have a better personality than somebody else, and who can explain that? You know, my daughter has the greatest personality. She's wonderful. Who can explain why she has such a wonderful personality relative to other people? We're just born with certain strengths. We're thinking about, do you have a true focus while you're trading? And Max is a great example of this. Walk by his desk, notice how he focuses during the day. There are serious people here as well. He stands out in his focus. We're noticing, taking a look at your performance, both on the demo and live trading. Are you a cultural fit? And how are your tape reading skills? So there are very specific things that we're getting graded on. And so when I think back to your internship, you were very strong with stock selection. You were very strong with diligence. And so when you are checking your email to see if there was research on MRAN, that's how research is delivered to us. We get emails on it. You're playing to your strengths. And there's a mural that hangs at S&B Capital which says you're meant to do something great. You're meant to do something great. And there's a picture of Shark. You're meant to do something great. You do things great. You become a great trader, or you become your best trader. which is really the test. Be as good as you can be. You're meant to do something great. You do something great by building from your strengths. You need to understand what your strengths are. You need to be building from them. So when you're going to check for that research report, you're not just doing a simple little task to look for your research report. You're doing something that other people who are great at anything do, which is they're tapping into their strengths. Your strengths are your stock selection and due diligence. I got specific feedback about you and your brother about how good your stock selection was during your internship, about how specifically you were bringing new ideas, and I said this to you guys, and I encourage you to keep doing this. You were bringing new ideas to a team that you were sitting in on that does a really good job of stock selection in of themselves. You were bringing them more ideas, new ideas, ideas they weren't thinking about, and providing value to that team through stock selection. And I said this to you guys as well. I just hinted that, hey, why don't you start including research notes into your playbooks when you're thinking about doing certain trades as another check in your favor, or as another variable that you can keep track of. And you guys are the first people to do that. The first people to do that. And so you being your best trader, you being great, defined by what greatness is for you, is you doing that simple thing. So I love hearing you do that.
Thank you. And that's the one thing I think that Caleb and I really kind of took away from everything. And probably that was the area or the niche that I think really stood out to us. I know we look at kind of, or as we've mentioned before with Team Dan, they have a wide range of stock selection and experience. So for Caleb and I, we were just trying to figure out how exactly we can bring new ideas to their table, how exactly, what kind of stocks we should be looking at or could be looking at, and just kind of be able to add that kind of level of conviction. And I think on one of the playbooks where you gave that suggestion on the research that we get, that was kind of what solidified kind of that niche area for Caleb and myself. So that's one thing that we do on a daily basis now, is whenever we're trying to determine or look for stocks in play, we're looking to see if there's any other research out there to confirm it, to just add conviction to that trade. And that was kind of also in a sense with this stock. I mean, this is a less than a $10 stock with an earnings report in a strong sector. It's one that might not catch the eye of a lot of people on the desk just because of the fact it's not as widely known. So I think this kind of trade or this stock selection kind of adds to that area necessary in a sense. But it was just the fact that I would have liked to see with this playbook, I would have, to add the conviction there, I would have liked to see extra news articles or research given to us. I would have liked to see a triple beat to make it kind of like that A+ setup. So to me, I think that's just one thing that Caleb and I are just constantly doing. We're always trying to not be afraid to look at any kind of stock and just see if there's any other research that we're getting on a daily basis to just add conviction to our trades and our stock selection.
Okay, great. Awesome.
So kind of diving in a little bit, this is kind of the big picture based on the levels here. You can kind of see that MRAM over this 10-year chart on the weekly really just kind of consolidating anywhere from a 5 to a 10-point range for the most part. But the levels that I was able to kind of map out were 9 and 1150. Those were the kind of key inflection points that I was looking at. And those were areas that you really can't see on the daily time frame. So kind of keeping the three levels that we had, or that I had mapped out, were I believe it was the 52-week high of 761, 9, and 1150. And this is kind of just zoomed in on the 3-year here. You can kind of see that 9 was the area where over the last 3 years kind of fell from. It made kind of a few attempts in the early stages to try and get above 9, but ultimately fell below it, came close into the 8 range, and just ultimately kind of was just still below these levels. So this was kind of just a kind of zoomed in picture from the 10-year chart into the 3-year chart on the weekly time frame. And so after the earnings report came out, you can see the kind of first initial reaction. And this kind of led to MRAM gapping up, or kind of after hours, shooting past their 52-week high, kind of contesting that 9 kind of key level. So this was kind of what piqued the interest to begin with. And then you can see kind of the next day, the morning of, basically just consolidating in a 20 cent range, 40 cent range, in between 740 to 780, while still kind of being around that 52-week high. And then you can see in the pre-market here that we do end up breaking the 52-week high again and start to kind of make a push. So this is kind of just the technical price action of the stock after hours and then pre-market as well. Now, I was going to say the main thing, so at first, as I mentioned, this wasn't necessarily an A-plus setup without having the extra research confirmation or the raised guidances. But however, within the first 15 minutes of the market, as I kind of talked about before, the average volume was 145,000 shares kind of over the last 20 days. And one of the scanners that Caleb and I actually have is something that is doing 1,000% extra or exponential volume over the last 20 days. And MRAM was one that actually basically was on the radar. It did, I think, 1.4 to 1.5 million shares within the first 15 minutes. So it was 10x basically the average volume coming into these key levels that basically him and I were looking at, that I executed on. So to me, that was kind of what added a little bit more conviction to this trade now, was the fact that we did have volume, a drastic volume increase in confirmation up towards the 9 key level after already kind of gapping above and going above the 52-week high at 761. And so this is actually the basically on the 3-minute chart, the executions that were made. This ended up being kind of more of a trend trade throughout most of the day. But once the volume started picking up and it hit the radar, basically 880 was the first initial entry price, expecting that 9 key level to break. And as you can see here, the first sell was actually into, once we kind of broke 9 and started screaming up into 10, started to take off size. I believe that was the first breakout trade. At first was just the scalp opportunity to kind of just build cash flow and to kind of see how the stock would react around that 9 level and how far we could go up. I also know the ATR, like I mentioned, was 50 cents. So basically that 10 to 10.30 range was from the open of like $8 was 4 or 5 ATRs up. So to me, I thought already being up from the original entry of about 2 ATRs, breaking a key level and shooting up another 2 ATRs, that was kind of where I wanted to kind of take the sales there to begin with and then start to reassess for potential anticipation of this being a trend trade. So as we started falling back down into the 9 area, the 9 key level, that's where I started bidding in more and kind of getting more size here. And then we started trying to contest around the 1030 area, 1040. Tried making new or contesting the highs, but just couldn't and started falling out. And that's where kind of on one of the pushes up at 11 a.m., I started to clear some size just to kind of limit the risk. And that's one of the lessons or takeaways that I actually took from this. But then from there, just kind of had a bid structure since the average price was still above 9. We were still holding above 9, that key level. Basically, just start to sell into 20-cent increments, starting at 9.20, I believe, into creating a new high of day as well, which is also for my basically one of the reasons to sell, basically as we're creating new intraday highs on volume.
You know, it's interesting, when it got above 9, it went way above 9 relative to its ATR. And it's interesting when it pulled in that it held above 9 when it pulled in. Those are two things that stand out to me. And then the other thing is that opening drive you don't see every day in terms of movement based on its ATR.
The reason why the entries or the exits were they were within like a 6-minute time span, but that was the main thing, kind of realizing on an intraday basis off the open, we were fairly extended, but breaking the key level was kind of what pushed the volume past there. And that was kind of, in a sense, like how you've mentioned before, a blowout or like a blow off in terms of trying to get an intraday top or bottom. To me, it looked like we were starting to blow off. So that was where I really just kind of wanted to kind of clear out of the position to begin with. and at least kind of secure those profits and kind of build cash flow and reassess from there. So that's why coming back into that 9 areas where I felt like it was a good pullback at a key level, already kind of locking in profits on the opening drive for this trade. So for me, I thought it was a good buying opportunity back down into the 9 range here. And then that's where the bid structure or the offer structure came from, into the 20-cent increments, creating a new high of day. And kind of just anticipating the fact that we were 5 ATRs up or 4 ATRs up on top of a gap up as well. To me, I wasn't really too sure how much higher we can go. So that's why I really wanted to kind of clear size into the new high of days, or coming back into it, and then kind of allow myself with about, I think it was like 10% or 5%, kind of go into the later afternoon and just see if we can kind of retest and make a new high as well, ending the day.
All right, great. Good to overlay VWAP on your charts to see how that is reacting and to see how far away price is away from VWAP. You probably had that up in other charts.
Yes, always. I know the VWAP is always an indicator, or the indicator that we always use on all of our time frames. When doing the trader view executions, they don't necessarily add VWAP to it. So that's one thing where on the executions, I need to either relay VWAP as well. But yes, I was going to say VWAP is always on the screens at all time. And that's where I was thinking that blow off move, we were probably, I would, if I had to guess here, probably 2 or 3 ATRs above VWAP at this time. So that's also, to me, showing that we're overextending significantly fast on the opening drive play here.
And that can help you make trade decisions. All right, finishing thoughts, closing thoughts.
Finishing thoughts on the trade here, just looking for the improvements. I was going to say, I know basically with kind of everything overlaying that this was a pretty good earnings beat in a strong sector. You got to expect exponential volume and range expansion. And to me, I think we were gapping above 52-week highs, showing strong volume off the open. I think looking at it, maybe hitting that 850 to begin with instead of 880 was kind of where risk was warranted as volume really started to pick up. So that's more of just a pricing and bidding kind of takeaway from it. And then also at 12:45 p.m., kind of realizing that we were still holding 9 after a breakout. I did kind of take a sell during the lower volume hours, but I think it was more of just the fact that we weren't really moving and it wasn't really showing anything at the moment. And ultimately, I think the price just shows you after breaking 9 and retesting 9, going for the rest of the day, it was showing that it was a trend trade and there was really no reason to sell any remainder size unless we got back below 9. And then on top of that as well, just kind of normal kind of offer structures. With the range expansion, you do have to expect that the ATR moves are probably going to be a little bit more than what they have been, or just exponentially. So I think the bidding or the offer structure could have been, instead of every 20 cents, just a little bit larger to kind of not clear a size, but also take profits as well.
Yeah, I'd like for you to think about that in terms of ATRs, not in cents.
Okay.
And my final thoughts, and I don't know if you're a religious person, and I'm not going to ask you, and it's not about that, but I found it to be at least a coincidence that as we're making that very strong point about how you did such a good job looking at your emails for research, that on the upper right-hand corner of your desktop, there were multiple times where new research was coming in. Now, Kurt's going to kill us because it may require some heavy editing for this video, but there were emails that were being triggered, or you were being alerted to emails that were coming in on new research that was hitting your inbox. I think that might be a sign from whatever it is you believe in or don't believe in, but it was a minimum of coincidence. It was some sign to us that we're on the right track here.
Thank you. I'd say, I know that's the one thing. I know I have all of my emails kind of linked to the laptop here, so I know you might have seen some non-trading emails come in, but you did see probably 3 or 4 research ones come in. But that's the one thing there. I mean, I'm constantly hearing that buzz when they come in and just seeing what is kind of being presented to us in the research emails, but they are going all day long for sure. There's never really a dull moment in terms of emails not coming in.
Good point. Good point. All right, really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Hey, go ahead and click our subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos that we're producing for you in the trading community. And please take the time to add your feedback in the comments section for what videos you'd like for us to produce next and what you found helpful from this video. From all of us at SMB, train and trade well.